I want to welcome everybody to Unifying Your District, collaborating to support student and career development. My name is Teresa Gibbons, or Gibby, and I am the VP-elect for Counseling and Career Development for ACTE. And today we're going to be talking about, there was a publication that Patrick Akos, professor at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, recently wrote for ACTE that focuses on advocating for students through collaboration of CTE professionals, primarily with school counselors, but with multiple aspects on campus. So first thing we want to do is the Student Career Development Series, which is sponsored by Zello. ACTE is doing it, and they're talking about starting early, delivering real-world experiences, unifying your district, which is what we're talking about today, connecting SEL to career success, and technology to deliver equity. All of those things are incredibly important so that we can keep promoting CTE and helping our students to be the best they can. So I've already introduced myself. Our panelists today are Dr. Brian Matheson, Tony Warren, and Katie Stewart. I want to tell you a little bit about them, but first I want to do a poll of webinar attendees. Do you currently feel your school district collaborates successfully for student well-being? You can answer yes, no, or we could use some work. So if your poll should have popped up. You can answer the questions. I know a lot of districts are in different places with this. It's something we started in my district probably about 5 years ago. And I think we've come a long way in 5 years, but I also know we have more we can do. All right, so far, one person thinks that, or one person says that they've got it, they're doing real well with it. Lots of people say we could use some work. So we'll start with that. Let me introduce our panelists. Brian Matheson is a school counselor with over 20 years of experience working in K-12 education. He currently serves school counseling specialists with Vancouver Public Schools in Vancouver, Washington. Dr. Matheson is also recognized ASCA Model Team Captain for RAMP with the American School Counselor Association and frequently trains school counselors at state and national conferences. Tony Warren is an education consultant for the Calhoun Intermediate School District and Calhoun Area Career Center in Battle Creek, Michigan. He provides equity-focused college and career readiness training to school counselors and administrators. And Katie Stewart. Katie has been in the education industry for more than 20 years, all within the world of career and technical education. She is passionate about the opportunities CTE provides to students in their career exploration, preparation, and eventual career success. In Vancouver Public Schools, she serves as the Assistant Director of CTE and specifically oversees the areas of career guidance, work-based learning, as well as the human services and health sciences pathways.
Sure. I think I'm going to leap in and talk a little bit about what we've done in our district. And Gibby, I like how you talked about that you've made tremendous growth, but you also have work to do. And I would say that's the same of us. So again, I'm Brian. I'm a school counseling specialist, and my great colleague, Katie, is joining me, and she'll speak as well. Hopefully I won't take too much of her steam. So Dr. Akos was kind enough to highlight some of the work in our district. And basically, as a school counselor, we expect our school counselors to collaborate. We expect our school counselors to use their leadership skills to partner with other educators and folks working in schools to make sure that all students are successful. And that is challenging work, and the only way it gets done is through collaboration. And so Katie and I try to model that at the district level. So both of us are based at the district level, and so we've tried to model what we expect our buildings to do by collaborating ourselves. So we meet regularly, we talk about shared outcomes for students, shared vision for students, and then we've tried to bring in other partners at the district level that share this work. So we partner with our AVID coordinator, we partner with our Gear Up coordinator, and then Other work groups come in and out of our meetings. So sometimes we're bringing in specialists over curriculum. Sometimes we're bringing in administrators. And the whole idea is that, together we are doing what needs to be done to make sure all students are successful. And as we brought those different work groups in, we have become clearer about what we want in our district in terms of a shared vision. And so we're proud of what we've done. We developed a website, and really the website for us is a tool to describe our vision and a tool to communicate. So it's a website that what's behind the website, the philosophy and the vision is what's really important. And then we also leaned into doing the best we can to simplify what is essentially a really complex process. So we wanted to make sure that all of our students are either employed, enrolled, or enlisted by the time that they graduate. And I can't even say these are original ideas. We borrowed our ideas from other school districts that were a few steps ahead of us, but we took the very best of what they did. And we were really intentional when we chose our 3 E's, because at the end of the day, we wanted to focus on what we want to happen for all students. It's not about what the adults do necessarily, but it's about what the adults can do for students and what we want for the students at the end of the day. So that was a real trying to be as succinct as I can about what we're doing. And I hope I left a little bit for Katie to also speak about when it's her turn. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Tony Warren to talk about the same.
Make sure you guys do see the slides that are on the screen now. Great. We're going to dive right in because I know we got a full agenda. So one of the things I want to talk to you about, well, I think I need to back up. I got 4 questions that I would like to pose to the group that's in attendance today that may help you what I like to call reduce or eliminate random acts of career development. And the first, so if you're on the call now, just think about these 4 questions I'm about to pose. How does your district define career development? Think about that for a moment. Are you defining career development by educational development plans, talent portfolios, work-based learning, career fairs, industry tours? How does your district currently define career development? If I was to insert the word awareness, where does that fit at the K-5 level? Exploration at the middle school level? Preparation at the high school level? Have you operationally defined what career development means in your district? Think about, how does your district define career development? Deliver. How does your district deliver career development? Are you implementing career development in a classroom setting through contextualized instruction? Are you using large group or small group, face-to-face? And now, since we're in COVID, I did a lot of my career development in what's known as a hyperdoc. And if you want to have a conversation outside of our time today, just inbox me and I can share with you some of the resources we use to implement career development through a hyperdoc. So how are you delivering career development? That's number 2. Number 3 would be manage. How does your district manage career development? What organizational tools, resources, and assessments are you using to develop and implement and evaluate comprehensive K-12 career development? Do you have an administrative conference in which you would meet with your administrator at the beginning of the year? Do you have a core curriculum action plan which will provide a detailed list of all of the lessons, activities, and events that your students will participate in throughout the year? Do you have a calendar? Do you have an advisory council? These are all management tools. And I'm sure you have a management tool, either Zello, Naviance, YouScience, Nepris. Those will be a platform in which you can use to also help manage your career development in your district. And then the last question would be, how does your district assess career development? Have you established student outcomes? And does your career development goals align and support your district mission and school improvement goals? So those are 4 questions that when I'm working with our 19 school districts that I ask those districts, and I'm working with administrators, and this helps them formulate their career development in their buildings, and more importantly, that they're not doing random acts of career development. So when we think about unifying your school district, there's 5 things that I would like for you guys to focus on. So just think about these 5. The first would be enlist the employer community as a lead partner in identifying in-demand careers. So when you enlist your employer community, that means that they will lend themselves to provide work-based learning opportunities, work with your district and CTE teams to talk about industry emerging trends that are happening, and they will also participate in your advisory council. So having employers involved in your career development is an essential step to unifying your district. And then there's 2, make career preparation matter to schools and students by prioritizing career development in the accountability system. I'm sure there are folks on this call from multiple states. In the state of Michigan, we have the Michigan Career Development Model, and we also have state initiatives that center around accountability for implementing comprehensive K-12 career development. So what state, regional, local initiatives do you have in your state and in your district centered around accountability measures for career development? That's 2. And then 3, provide career development resources and technology tools. What career development resources and technology tools are you currently using to unify your district? And I like to break those up into certain categories like self-assessment, general occupational information, employment trends, special populations, and videos. So these are all resources that we will provide our district. And then 4 would be allocating resources for K-12 career development. We know across the state that, I'm sure in your state as well as Michigan, we love to have our unfunded mandates, but it's important that we are able to provide resources to our local districts that would offset the cost of some of the things that we know that our locals need to implement K-12 career development. Now there's 5. Here's the area in which I really want to highlight. And 5 is ramp up career development programs and equip students with the requisite skills needed to succeed in H3 careers. And H3 careers will be high skill, high wage, high demand. And the importance of ramping up career development, everything that you see on the screen, all of the stars are actually resources that we provide all 19 school districts. The first 3 are all assessment tools. And I believe all of the links are hot. So at the conclusion of the webinar, you'll have access to go in and check out some of these assessments that we provide for all of our locals. We have the K-12 Career Development Assessment Tool, the District Counseling Program Assessment, and the Zello Career Development Assessment. All 3 of those assessments are great in part because it allows our local districts access to evaluate and assess where they are currently with implementing K-12 career development. And then we have what we call the Career and College Mindsets and Behavior Action Plan. That action plan is outstanding, in part because it aligns with ASCA's K-12 mindsets and behaviors, and it allows for us to track data on all 19 school districts. So I have data on every district in our consortium as to what they are currently doing implementing K-12 career development. And they get incentivized by doing that because we provide each of our districts a $5,000 grant. So they get the $5,000 grant, and that encourages them to complete the College and Career Readiness Action Plan. And then we have the Career and Future Readiness Series. And I just wanted to acknowledge Zello because they team with us and to provide 10 sessions throughout the year. Zello will provide an hour session over how to implement the platform. And then I will meet with the counseling teams from all of our districts over how to implement K-12 career development. And then here's where the rubber really meets the road. We have something called the CTE Counselor Educators Collaborative. And this is with all of our CTE instructors, our 19 school districts, our Assistant Superintendent of Career and Technical Education, our business and industry partners, monthly meetings. And the focus is, you guessed it, comprehensive K-12 career development, career and technical education, and best practices for students. So those meetings are extremely impactful for our students. And then new this year would be the Counselor Connect and the IDEA Professional Learning Series, because we just don't look at career development through a single lens. We like to use a whole child approach. So the IDEA stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Advocacy, and Access. And we like to look through career development through a holistic lens. So it's a series of professional development that will allow our districts to see the whole child. And then the last thing we provide our locals is the mindsets and the My Career Quest. The My Career Quest is an event just for 2,000 middle school students. It's a hands-on career exploration event that allows students to connect the dots and basically connect with career and technical education professionals, career and technical education instructors, off-site, and in an environment that allows for students to see hands-on what a welder actually does in the 8th grade. So the My Career Quest event has been a huge hit in our consortium. So all of the elements under 5 are all of the things that we are currently doing to unify our 19 school districts. And I don't want to take up any more time, but there's just one more slide that I have to share, and then we're going to train it over to Katie. Our K-12 career development framework, as I mentioned before, has 3 areas. Those 3 areas are learn, earn, and live. The learn component is the academic, the earn component is career, and the live component is social emotional learning. And as you can see on the slide, I'm not going to go through all of them, but they all have competencies and indicators, and they're either aligned with ASCA standards or CASEL's SEL standards. So we like to take a whole child approach to implementing comprehensive K-12 career development. So I'm going to step aside and allow Katie her time. So thank you.
Wow, Tony, I don't think I can top that at all. Thanks for those resources. I know it took a little while to get caught up to the slides to match with what you were talking about, but I'm looking forward to, even as a panelist, looking at those resources that you've posted for us there. So Brian talked a little bit about what we're doing at the district level in Vancouver Public Schools to support career and college readiness and collaboration. So I think that I'll just touch a little bit on what we're doing at the building level, and then we can get on with some questions that I think we're going to maybe address as well. So at our building level in Vancouver, we provide a career specialist at each of our buildings, and that person is funded out of CTE funding. And the whole purpose is for that person to collaborate with the counselors, to work with students on college and career readiness, and to help them with their planning on multiple post-secondary pathways. There's a career center where this person is housed, and they can provide lots of support for students at the building level. But like Brian said, we really encourage those people to team together to figure out how they can have a specialist maybe focusing on the career guidance portion. Our career specialist kind of takes more of a lead on the career guidance and the high school and beyond plan, whereas the counselors take more of a lead on academic counseling, social emotional learning, and then also supporting the career guidance as well. So we encourage them to spend the time building that collaboration at the building level while we're developing systems at the district level, and hopefully everything meets in the middle for some great support for our students. So I think that will wrap up kind of what we're doing in Vancouver. Gibby, if you want to get back to the questions.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys very, very much. Yeah, and like I said at the beginning of this, we've started doing some stuff in my district. And I thought we were doing fantastic. And then I hear what's going on around the country, and I'm like, yeah, we got more work to do. We can do that. All right, so we do have some questions here. The first one is, why do you think unifying of CTE professionals and unifying school districts are imperative to students' education and future? And Brian, why don't you start that one?
Yeah, well, this has already been touched upon, but it's too important. We will not reach our goals for equity for all students if we continue to allow, as Tony talked about, random acts of guidance to be our work. We will not get where we want to and need to be for all our students. And the work is also far too complex. You know, Katie and I have talked about, we have students making critical decisions about courses they'll select, how they'll spend their time at junctures, 8th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and on. And we need to make certain that they have the scaffolded knowledge and skills they need to make those great choices. We also need to make sure that they have adults in their lives that care deeply about them and can help guide them toward those choices. And so for me, it's a moral imperative. We can do better, you know. And as we have looked at our data, there are sometimes areas to celebrate. And it is clear there is much work to do when you disaggregate the data and look at individual student groups and what more we need to do. And as I talked about earlier, it's so complex. All these moving parts. Ideally, it is much better if they're working together. You know, Tony, throw down the mic after your presentation. I mean, I think you gave me my roadmap going forward. In some respects, I've been doing the career college readiness work, and I'm proud of that with Katie. And I've been doing the ASCA model work, and now I need to bring those two roads together. That's what you've done, and you know, that's where we want to be with collaboration. So again, it's a moral imperative. It's efficient and effective. It's the way we need to do business, and it's just a matter of getting there step by step. Yeah. Anybody else want to add to that? That's a great question.
Not sure there is much to add after that, because it was also a really good answer. You kind of covered everything there, Brian. All right, so the next question we've got here is, what were the biggest challenges you faced when CTE professionals work together to help with student success? Katie, why don't you take that one?
Okay, I can speak to a specific challenge that we faced when we were trying to determine the best way to support all students. We had some strong opinions and different value sets on which pathway might be most critical to prepare students for. And so this is a decades old challenge that I think most of us in CTE specifically have come across, and that's the four-year college for all sort of mentality or goal or mindset. And so I think that just making sure that the voice of all the other pathways can be heard when you're developing systems, because there's an awful lot of value to a four-year university degree, but there's also great value to other post-secondary options. And so in the state of Washington, our graduation requirements were revised to include a new set of 24 credits for college and career readiness. And 3 of the credits could be personalized pathway credit choices. And so it can be 2 credits of world language and an additional art, which would prepare the student for entrance directly into a university, or 3 credits that could be more personalized towards that student's pathway and high school and beyond plan and what they want to do for a career after high school. So before we could go any further, we couldn't set up any systems to track the graduation requirements within our student information system or within Zello for our course planning tool until we figured out how we were going to guide students in the development and the choice of those 3 credits. So we first had to figure out what our vision was in supporting all pathways or supporting a default pathway and then opening it up to other pathways. And so we just had a lot of really strong, sort of passionate, value-based, philosophically based conversations about what we believed in Vancouver in terms of pathways for all students. And if we really were going to honor the choice, we have a lot of choice programs in our district, magnet programs in our technical center, Cascadia Technical Academy. If we're going to honor all of those pathways, then we have to honor all the pathways. And so we had a lot of conversations about honoring all. Does that mean that one is less than the other? Does that mean we don't value a 4-year degree? And so anyway, that's the first challenge. When everyone asks me, was there a challenge? That's the biggest one I can come up with. But as we all come to the table and we talk about what's important, and we also looked at data, we looked at labor market data, we looked at economic need, we looked at how are we going to best prepare students to fulfill, their interest as well as the jobs that are out there in the economy. And so I think I feel good about where we landed. We landed on a website called Future Me that honors the 3 E's: enrolled, enlisted, and employed. And we do our best at the district level and at the building level to support all of those pathways for students. So that was our biggest challenge.
Excellent. Does anyone have anything to add to that? I think that's a challenge we all share. Moving on from, and what I now term when I'm talking with some of our parents is, we're not your grandfather's vocational school anymore. We're much more. So, all right. So the next question we have: has the pandemic affected unifying strategies in your school district? Brian and Katie, what's going on in your school district with that?
Yeah, I think I was going to leap in again, but I'd certainly encourage others to speak up on this one. So, on a positive frame, and Tony talked about this, is that those of us that care deeply about social emotional learning and have been working hard to integrate social emotional learning into the guaranteed and viable curriculum, we got a lot more attention this year, and we were able to move forward a lot more than we have in previous years. But as Tony eloquently stated, that in the school counseling world, we have the three domains, and they all work together. That's the beauty of them: the academic, social emotional, and the career college. And so that's something that we've thought a lot about, is now that social emotional learning has received a rightful place as critical for all students. How do we integrate that with the career college guidance as well? And we all understand it, but sometimes we need to collaborate with our teaching staff and administrators to help them understand that, understanding myself and my interests and my goals and my preferences, is social emotional learning and career college readiness. So that's definitely something that's exciting, and we are taking advantage of, and will continue to take advantage of. Also, although Zello sometimes frustrates us, the ability to communicate without pulling people out of buildings makes it a lot easier to meet and collaborate. So that's a new piece for us. So yeah, there's definitely some positive, but along with that, I will also say there's been struggles. We have struggled to engage our students. We've struggled for space in the middle of, trauma, so we've had advancements, but also understandably some big challenges as well. Yeah, other folks?
Nope. All right, got that one then. Yeah, the whole pandemic was just, what's the latest word? Pivot. Everything pivots in a new direction, trying to take care of it during the pandemic. The next question we've got here is, what were some of the advantages your students received from collaboration of CTE professionals? Tony, why don't you start with that one?
Yeah, I think I'll take that one, but I just want to add on to what Dr. Matheson said about the pandemic. It was once upon a time in which it was like a 80-20, where everything was college readiness and social emotional took a back seat. So now, given the pandemic, it's almost like 33 across the board. So that more emphasis has been placed, rightly so, on social emotional well-being of our students. So what are some of the advantages that students experience by participating and collaborating with CTE professionals? One would be, I think of it in terms of like 3 words: contextual learning, increased relevance, and tangible skills. Students also get an opportunity for CTSOs, participating in career and technical student organizations like DECA, Educators Rising, HOSA, Skills USA, technology student associations. So that's CTSOs are a vital part of our outcomes, and we want to engage our students in our career and technical student organizations. And it allows for our students to partner with business and industry partners and through project-based learning. So I've been in education for over 30 years, and 20 of it I spent collaborating with CTE professionals and school counselors. So I enjoy this question because I see firsthand the value of CTE and the advantages that students have when it's implemented with fidelity.
I think I would also add just that when we collaborate, our students get a constant message. It's consistent. They hear from the counselor the same thing that they're hearing from the career specialist in the different options and the tools that we use. And so I think consistency is really something that our students benefit from. Also, I think that just having a space, I think by our district investing in the career specialist, we've got sort of a resident expert in the building that can do all things career readiness. And so they're bringing in post-secondary options, representatives to come in and talk to students. There's a space for that. They're supporting with participation in our Cascadia Technical Academy and our Running Start programs and our scholarships and admission to post-secondary, having admission days and signing days, and supporting the high school and beyond plan with Zello. They can bring students in. And I just think creating the space for the collaboration and the dedicated area for students to come in and find expert support is really beneficial to students, because teachers don't have time to support that work necessarily. And counselors don't have time to dedicate to all three of the pillars of counseling and guidance. And so I think it's in our district, it's really, I think, been beneficial to have that extra support all around career readiness.
Yeah, well, and I just want to add something I'm really proud of as CTE in our district, and I'm sure this exists nationwide, is that there is no silo, there is no staying in your lane with regard to CTE. CTE is everywhere in our district. Katie and her colleagues have integrated CTE standards and competencies into art classes, and when we looked at our data on where students earning the most college credit, where was it coming from? CTE classes, so that's really powerful and exciting that CTE is, so flexible and so willing to, move in and out of whatever's needed to, create outcomes for students, and that's really powerful.
Okay. Very good, very good. And this question kind of circles back to some of what we were talking about before, but I want to read it. Have you experienced families' hesitancy related to CTE curriculum with misguided concerns about limiting college prep? And how do you combat those hesitations?
I don't know how I got on so many of these. We should. No, I want to hear from other folks. But anyway, yeah, I took this one because in some of my background and training as a school counselor, I received a lot of training in sort of the career or the college readiness for all. With a lot of that training and background, I had a lot of biases and misunderstandings that needed to be corrected. And having gone down that road myself, we also need to do a lot of that with our parents and guardians. As I mentioned earlier, we have CTE classes that are rigorous, very rigorous, and provide college credit and are aligned to our most advanced courses. And we need to work hard to help our parents and guardians understand that, and in our district, when we have CTE classes that can be so many things, as I mentioned, they can meet 2 subject area requirements with 1 credit. They can be college credit, they can be advanced placement. So helping our families and our students, understand that and understand what CTE can be is a huge challenge. And we need to work hard at that. That's definitely a growth area for us. That was, Katie mentioned the website, and again, we're proud of that. And what's behind the website is what's important to me, but that's mainly for parents and guardians. We know not too many students are going to websites. That's not how they're communicating right now. So that's part of our outreach to parents and guardians and other adults in the system to help them understand, what CTE is. And, and I mentioned earlier, just, with these decisions that students are making, we want them to have adults in their lives that can support them with those decisions. And in order to help them make good decisions, they need to understand as well. So it's this really tricky balance we're trying to find of creating tools and visuals and simplifying things that are essentially complex, but at the same time, not backing away from that complexity and engaging in the conversation. So yeah, how about other folks on that one? Anything to add?
No. All
I'm
right.
going to add
Oh,
something.
go ahead.
Recently, we've been doing different virtual presentations to our students and families, and one of them is Trade Tuesdays. So they've focused on trades as a career and different preparation within the trades. And whenever that topic comes up, it's just we always have families that are surprised at how much somebody in a trades position will make as a career. And understanding, putting the 2 and 2 together with looking at an apprenticeship or a technical trades program, and the amount of debt that you'll come out with versus the amount of debt if you were to go to a 4-year university. And so we're just always trying to provide awareness about all the different pathways in these middle skills careers, where we definitely want to send the message that more beyond high school is important. It's important to do something beyond high school. But looking at some of these middle skills careers where you can earn, a certificate or a degree from a technical or a community college, and then have just a very much of a living wage and a successful career that's aligned with your interests, I think that's always a win-win. So it's just fun to see that awareness come out more to our families.
Yeah, well, and our families, they don't know what they don't know, some of them, and it's our responsibility to teach them. In fact, Katie and I believe this week we're having another meeting to plan a large virtual, career college CTE awareness fair for families in multiple languages using multiple outreach strategies, and that's because we want them to know. And we talked about in our district, we use Zello, and Zello is a great tool. And I'm always shocked when I talk to a parent and they had no idea that their student has access to Zello. They have no idea what Zello can do. And then you explain it to them, they're like, what? Like, how do I get access to this? And it's just a reminder that we have more work to do to educate our families on, career college readiness preparation, options after high school, and also our counseling staff as well. I've said this on other forums, but Katie set up an apprenticeship training for the counselors, and they were blown away because they hadn't received a lot of that training. They mostly received some of the career college Kool-Aid training, and so they were like, oh, mind blown. And so we'd like to bring this to parents and guardians so they understand those options as well. Yeah.
This is a systemic problem. When you look at the parents, many of the parents that we provide resources, what I would call appraisal and advisement, counseling around college and career readiness, many of the parents took the college track, so they're familiar with that track. And if they were successful, that's the track that they would like their youngster to be on as well. So, and oftentimes they may not consider another track unless their kid is not performing well. So it's upon us to inform them of all the advantages as CTE as a first choice, not as a second or third choice.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in on this too, because one of the things I started doing in our school district several years ago was when they have elective fairs for rising 6th and rising 7th and rising 8th graders. Even though we're a high school, I go and I make sure I have a booth, and I'm talking about what we offer as a high school, particularly as the CTE classes. But getting those parents thinking about it, even as rising 6th grade parents, getting them thinking about it. And then 2 years ago, we actually went to the 6th grade orientation in August and met with the 6th grade parents and the 7th grade parents and the 8th grade parents, just so they know, getting it in their brains a little bit earlier. My district's at the point where we've got students sold on coming to Burton and coming to our classes. And the next step is getting the parents. So, all right. I've actually have a audience question here. I'm interested in hearing about strategies to engage the students. As a parent, I know that my student was not at all engaged in college and career readiness while in middle and high school, no matter what I tried. I find that the students don't necessarily take it seriously. Anybody have thoughts on that?
I want to make sure that I heard the question correctly. The panelists, well, the question was difficult. I couldn't hear it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Basically, it's how to get students in middle and high school to take college and career readiness more seriously and caring about it more instead of just like if they're doing questionnaires and stuff, flipping through it. Does that make
I think
sense?
it's a great question. I don't have any
I know.
easy answers. I was always surprised when sometimes I would teach these types of lessons and students didn't seem engaged, and, you know, and I was like, what could be more interesting than you and hope and your future? But sometimes we need to work harder to scaffold, you know, these lessons so that students have the background. Sometimes we need to look at our teaching, you know, and how we teach to engage. You know, most high school students are not learning through a slide deck, which was something that I was not very smart about early on in my career. And then last year, and maybe Katie wants to talk about this, we started to think about how can we use age appropriate role models and references and short videos and things that students are into, and even their, you know, cultural competencies to kind of draw them into things. So not easy answers, but those are some things I've learned and some things we're trying. I think you were going to leap in, Katie.
Yeah, I was going to mention that our Future Me series that we were developing for 8th graders. And I think one of the things that we need to do is engage students early. And so helping them understand that they're not just going year by year through the system and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I'm graduating. Now what am I going to do? We need them to start thinking about it in 8th grade. And so in Washington, we have a requirement that in 8th grade, their high school and beyond plan, they develop a 4-year plan. And we have lots of work to do on this to make sure that this happens for every kid. But I think the idea of that 8th grade transition year when you're going into high school, if you're developing a really solid 4-year plan that makes sense for you, you can't do that until you envision where you want to be after high school. So we have to help them envision, where do I want, what kind of a career am I interested in? And what are the opportunities around that type of career field? What's the education that's required for that career? And then planning the classes and opportunities and programs that will get you there. Because you have to start planning early if you want to do Running Start, early college. Similarly, you have to start planning early if you want to do Cascadia Technical Academy, where you're taking a 3-period block of your day, you know, in the construction trades program. So just knowing that they have to plan around, you know, all of these different opportunities, they have to understand them early on. So we tried to do a pilot, and this is something that got altered because of the pandemic, because it was going to launch in March. We were 3/4 of the way through our pilot, and it was the development of a 4-part series of a little video that we created utilizing Zello, our tool, and having students work through a little lesson plan. And it was to be done in an advisory class for all 8th graders at one of our middle schools. And everything shut down a year ago, and we didn't get to do that. We did it remotely, so we still held a Zoom, and we had students come in, and we tried to help them, you know, build their 4-year plan. But I would say making sure they know their options early is really important, instead of just having them go through year to year. And then the other thing is, we have found Zello to be really an engaging tool. We had career cruising in the past, and the engagement levels were really low with career cruising. But Zello is really dynamic, and it's really engaging for students. And so I think we've been able to open it up. You know, if we can get students to the class period where they're logging into Zello, I think they can find that tool helps with the engagement, because they can search for different careers. They can, you know, put in the salary that they want to earn and the education that they want to do, and look at different careers of interest. They can save their careers and start making plans early on. So it's, I think, finding the time and getting the tools in front of students that will help them understand how important it is. It's not just one more thing, and it's not just checking the box, but it's your future. And you're going to be working for, you know, 45 years of your life. So you're going to want to make sure that you pick the right opportunity and you have a solid plan in place.
Yeah. I want to make sure my microphone's working now. Can you guys hear me?
You're good.
Yeah. Okay. Along those lines of, you're going to be doing something for 45 years in life. In Roanoke County, I go and I talk with fifth graders, and I get them thinking about what it is they're passionate about, and then get them thinking about what kinds of careers are in that. And then, so for instance, if, you know, fifth graders, a lot of them want to cure cancer. So you've got the scientists and you've got the doctors and you've got the nurses, but you've also got the lab techs and everything. So we start thinking about all the different careers within something that they're passionate about, and then think of the different levels of those careers and what education each one of those takes. So we get them thinking about it in fifth grade. And then once they start sixth grade with us, we actually use Major Clarity, which is it's another platform, and we use that through 11th grade, and we have different lessons that we do each year. And I think it's pretty engaging. When we first started it, some of our counselors decided that it was pretty good because it was Gibby proof, because the videos were short enough to keep my attention. And that, you guys don't know me well enough yet, but as ADHD as I am, it's got to be really good to keep my attention for 90 seconds. So yeah, so there's different platforms out there, and it's just, yeah. The other question I ask students is, what do you want to do first after high school? Because sometimes if you ask them what they want to do, you know, for the rest of their lives, they're like, that's a little overwhelming for a middle or a high school student. So I've started asking, what do you want to do first? Let's figure that out, and then go from there.
If I can pick on Tony, I'd like to hear your answer on the engagement, Tony, because you've got all those great structures and tools in place, like the lesson plan template and things of that nature. And when you have those things in place, then you can start to talk about, you know, we have students who aren't participating, and then we have students who are participating, but they're not meeting our learning objectives. And you kind of take all that work to the next level, you know. So would you like, I'm putting you on the spot. How do you engage in your district with your lessons and things like that?
Well, it most of what we've done has been covered. However, I think we need to have a real conversation. And that I just did a presentation to a group of students who was in an alternative school. And we often talk about, what do you want to be when you grow up? We talk about all of those things that each one of you mentioned today. And then we talk about the 6 post-secondary pathways. Now stay with me just for a second. So everyone on the call is familiar with 6 post-secondary pathways. Employment and so they would be, let me pull one up: arts and communication, business management, marketing and technology, engineering, manufacturing, health sciences, human services, natural resource, and agri-science. We throw that in front of a group of students that's on the college and career readiness track. They're going to eat that up. Okay, now we have to start thinking about equity. There are going to be some students, when you roll that slide and start to talk about those 6 post-secondary pathways and what do you want to be, and here are some opportunities for you, they're not going to be engaged. So what can we do to ramp up our engagement, to touch them or get them motivated and interested? So as opposed to just talking about pathways, I want to talk about, there's other pathways as well. And there are employment and entrepreneurship. So when you leave school, I start with these 6 pathways, and I give kids real talk. When you leave school, there's employment and entrepreneurship, enlistment in the U.S. Armed Forces, enrollment in 2-year, 4-year certificate program or university. Most kids are going to have to do one of those 3 for sure. To become gainfully employed and to take care of yourself, you're going to have to do those 3. You don't want the next 3. The next 3 is unemployment and underemployment, incarceration and death. It's time to start having real conversation with students. All of our students right now are not going to be enrolling in Stanford, Duke, and Yale. We got some students that got some real challenges. And when you face students and have conversations with students about, listen, we want to make sure that you are in the first 3 and not the latter. What can we do to ensure that we provide you resources that you're going to be employed or some entrepreneurship opportunities, enlist in the U.S. military, enrollment into a 2-year, 4-year certification program or a 4-year university? Let's have that conversation. Now we can go back up to the pathway conversation because they don't want the other 3.
Real talk. I like it.
I like that. I like that. All right. So we are, we're running close on time here, but I've got one more question I know. Who leads the collaborative efforts within your group of CTE professionals?
I think that's me, not just me. I think that question is one that had my name on it. And our career development team, which is comprised of our assistant superintendent of career and technical education, who's my boss, myself, the education consultant for counseling and career development, our Perkins coordinator, and my wonderful administrative assistant. So we do a lot with just a small team. And we have one of our CTE counselors, which is a part of that career development team. And then we have our IDEA team, which is inclusion, diversity, equity, advocacy, and access. That team is also the same members, as well as 5 CTE instructors, which are a part of that IDEA team. So all of the efforts are basically led by 10 individuals to provide resources for 19 schools.
I'm going to nominate Brian to talk about what we do in our district because he keeps us on track. We've talked about this in our group. We have this district level task force, college and career readiness. We meet every 2 weeks, and it includes myself as a CTE assistant director and career guidance oversight for the district, and then Brian, who oversees our counseling team and on-time graduation efforts. And then we have our Gear Up and our Avid. And then we have a position that supports college preparation testing, AP classes, SAT, and all of those assessments for college readiness. She's on our team too. And so we meet regularly, and we always say to ourselves, you know, nobody asks us to do this work. We don't necessarily report to anybody. We kind of created our work. We meet, we do all the right things. We make amazing things happen for kids. But we've talked about, you know, we need to do an org chart to kind of say who's doing the work and who's responsible for these components, because we've really grown and we've taken on a lot of really great initiatives. But I will say that Brian keeps it on our calendar and starts a Google agenda for us. And then we just add things in and we kind of talk about what's going on. So it is important to have somebody lead the charge and just keep it as a regular occurrence where you're getting together. But where we can do a little better in our district is assigning it to that executive level and having some accountability with our school board and our executive team on owning our work and being, I know they're proud of what we do, but you know, we kind of, it's a little bit more of a grassroots effort for us in the middle level of management in the district.
Yeah, well, I think you nominated me and then you answered the question better than I possibly could. But I'm just going to add that, you know, putting us on the calendar is not hard, you know, so I do that. It's really the other work that's the hard work, and where I want to be, in addition to where Tony is with blending the Ask a National model with all the other efforts, would be I want to be better at transparent use of data, you know, and we've put a toe in that pool, and we know it's where we need to be. But at some point, I would love the conversation every time we meet to be about who are students, where are they at with their readiness, and where are needs and gaps to grow, you know. So having collaborated to create these great systems of vision and organization and who's in charge of what, you know, now I really want to go to the next level, which is just not talking about students up here, talking about students on a real granular level to make sure that when we're missing students, when there's gaps, when we can do better, we're talking about, you know, real students and improvement. It's kind of that real talk that Tony talked about a little bit earlier. Yeah.
All right, excellent. And I want to get our smaller school district up where you guys are and doing a lot of the things you guys are. We are just about out of time, and we are out of questions. Let me check Q&A one more time, make sure there's nothing else in there. We got that covered. I want to thank you guys very much for being here. I want to thank all of our attendees for being here with us today. And I love listening to the three of you talk, because my brain is just spinning now on how we can take our district to the next level. I'm super excited about that. Any final comments?
Just want to thank you for the opportunity to participate in the webinar, and Dr. Matheson and Katie. Katie, you and I have worked together before, so it's great to work with you again.
Likewise. Thanks, everyone.
Collaboration's not just in your district, right? We can
That's
Zoom.
right.
Yeah, we'll be following up, Tony.
Okay.
You and I are gonna be friends now too. I want to borrow some of your stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, wait, don't be leaving me out. I need in on all this too.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah, both of us, Gibby. I wasn't leaving you out. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you guys very, very much. And everybody have a good week.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.